mostly in the master bedroom though. Most of them do not, they're 9mm, they don't fit this firearm, but they are relevant, in my opinion, to show and explain to the jury this man had guns, he knows how to use guns, he had ammunition, because one of the allegations, or at least the defense initially, is that this is an accidental discharge. And the fact that he has so much ammunition from different types of firearms, in my opinion, would be something we could argue in closing to suggest that he that definitely understood firearms, clearly has had other firearms with other types of ammunition, and therefore he should have the ability, he knows how to clean or pull out a magazine out of a firearm without discharging it.
Are there other types of guns as well, or just
No,
the ammunition?
Apparently they were in financial distress around that time period, and he had pawned all his other firearms. So he had no other firearms in the house, but he did have ammunition for other firearms in the house.
And a lot of loose casings.
All right.
And a lot of loose casings scattered throughout. Not spent, well,
Yeah,
there were some spent,
yeah, they're spent.
but there were also some bullets in the,
All right, and what says the defense?
Yes, Judge, as I put in my motion, this only applies to the master bedroom. The gun, obviously, and anything related that can fit in that gun. Most of the stuff that is located is found in an Adidas bag, it's found in a backpack. There's one live round, I believe, a 9mm, that's right on top of the dresser. We just don't think they're relevant. Nothing that is in that bedroom, other than that firearm, had any involvement or could even be used in this case. A lot of it was spent casings, potentially, I guess, from Mr. and Mrs. Bass going to the gun range. You can see a 9mm TUMO spent casings, NFCR spent casings. We had an ammo box of 9mm, the Luger live round on the top, and then some 9mm Luger live rounds in the dresser. None of those, a 9mm ammo cannot fit in a .380. So we just believe it's all irrelevant, it's going to confuse the jury, and nothing in that paragraph at all has any connection to the .380. So, and this motion is specifically limited to the master bedroom.
Doesn't he make a statement that it's accidental or something?
Yes, Judge, he does.
He also has a concealed weapons permit that is in his wallet that's coming into evidence.
All right, then number 9 is denied. But with the caveat that there's no argument that he is some dangerous person because of the amount of ammunition and the types of ammunition that are found there. It's limited to what you've indicated to this court, that it goes.
It will only be limited to rebut the defense of an accident.
Correct. All right.
Judge, one thing I want to caveat, and I want to ask for a court ruling. I've already advised Mr. Terry of this. When Deputy Rainey testifies, and it's also clearly on his body cam, he exits back out of the residence at one point after he has only asked Mr. Bass what happened, and Mr. Bass says accidental discharge. After he steps out on his radio, he clearly says, house is clear, nobody else is in the house, and there's a second victim upstairs. He then walks back inside the house and he gets into very detailed questioning. How did it happen? Who, where was everybody, all that? Obviously, we feel very strongly the motion to suppress should have been granted because Deputy Rainey specifically testified under oath in his depo at that point with those two things that he's saying before it even happens, he was definitely not free to leave. The court denied it. All due respect to Judge Fernandez, I'm not re-arguing here at this point, obviously, but I do think I want to just bring one or two questions in about that because it goes to the jury instruction about defendant's statements. However, I don't want to open the door to him later invoking because later on, when they do read Miranda, which we feel was way too late, he does invoke. They continue to ask him a couple of questions. Judge Fernandez did clearly throw those out. So what I wanted to ask Rainey clearly was, like on your body cam, we hear you say the house is clear and there's two victims. And you can clearly hear the other officers also before any of the questioning. I just want to say at that point, he is not free to leave. And you are questioning him, and at that point, no Miranda's being read. That would be the extent of it. But I'm afraid I don't want to open the door to the invocation.
Yeah, Judge, and we would object to that. I mean, it was sufficiently litigated in the motion to suppress. I believe the record has been preserved in that. all of what she's testified to, he testified to in the motion to suppress.
He didn't testify.
No, he didn't.
Well, she relied on the body cams
Yes.
and the depositions of Rahman and Rainey. I just to clarify, John, I didn't mean to correct you.
But it's, we don't think that, I believe that will potentially create an issue, potentially open a door for Miranda. I have not advised Deputy Rainey about this at all yet. Clearly, that's a concern because he may not understand what's being asked. So I just think it touches too closely on Miranda, and I don't think the jury needs to be involved in that at all. That was already litigated and decided, and Judge Fernandez decided that all these statements are admissible. They do come in, that he was not required to read a Miranda until he actually did. So I don't believe that bringing it out in the trial would serve any purpose. This record's been sufficiently preserved for the appellate purposes. After this trial, they clearly have it all laid out.
My only concern, Judge, is of course the jury instruction on statements. And again, I definitely want to limit it because I do not want to go open the door.
All right, I'm just gonna see what the body cam says first, so approach the bench before you ask that
Very good.
question.
Thank you, Judge.
All right.
And if you could just address with the jury publicity,
Sure.
and we would invoke the rule.
All right,
Thank you, Judge.
Ready, man?
yeah.
Edwards, James, you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, when the jury comes in, the first thing the judge is gonna do is read them instructions. During that period, there's no in and out, just stay seated. Flip the switches, man.
Oh.
And Judge, just so this doesn't need to be on the record, just so your Honor's aware, I have been working on the jury instruction. I spent about 2 hours yesterday working on them.
Okay.
It's very complicated, but I'm getting close to the end. I told the defense I plan to finish it up this evening and send it to them, and I'll send the copy to the court.
All right,
But it's a complicated one, so I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of adjustments. but
all right, no problem.
Thank you.
And as the state, are there no witnesses in the courtroom?
No, we
Okay.
told them.
Thank you so much.
And did you send me a witness list too?
We did, Judge. We filed it with the court.
I know, but can you send me a Word
Yeah, I will let my secretary know.
version?
Um,
Because I just type into it as my notes, so it's just easier.
How would Your Honor like me to handle the testimony and the body cams of 2 through 5 in terms of renewal when each witness enters? Just renew at that time, or I just want to make sure the record's preserved?
Sure,
Just do that?
yeah, whatever you feel necessary, but I'll treat it as a standing objection, so.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
make sure. Thank you, Judge.
Approach
Judge,
the,
I'll provide
approach
Your
the
Honor-
bench for me, actually.
Oh, and Judge, one other thing. Advisor, she needed to leave, so but it's up to you, Your Honor. But she asked me to ask you, and so I said I would ask the judge, but based on what I'm seeing, I don't know that we have a legal argument to keep you here. But I just thought I'd bring that to the court's attention.
Is she gonna be released from her subpoena?
No, I just,
Yeah.
but I just let her know that, you know, because they saw her here and they were objecting to her watching the trial because she, you know, is testifying, so I said, okay, I will talk to you.
Well, if she's under subpoena then, and she's not legally, doesn't have parental rights, then I'm not gonna exclude her from the rule of sequestration.
Okay, that's, I just wanted to, I promised her I would ask Your
Okay.
Honor first.
All right.
So, okay.
Thank you.
But she's still a witness though.
Right,
Yes.
so I'm not excluding her from the rule of sequestration.
So she's gonna be allowed to sit?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Judge. I misunderstood that.
Ready, ma'am?
Yes.
All rise.
All right, have a seat. Good morning. How are you? Great, welcome back, everyone. I see you're all jacketed and sweatered up today. You took my warning literally. Have any of you seen or heard or learned anything about this case, inadvertently or otherwise, either that you recall now and didn't talk about on Friday or over the weekend? And that means no media coverage, no one's heard any of the media coverage or anything like that. All right, great. So I have a few preliminary instructions to read you before we get started. I'm going to ask that you pay attention to these. Many of these instructions you might have heard before. As you know, you've been selected and sworn as the jury to try the case of the state of Florida versus Jermaine Bass. And this is a criminal case, and Mr. Bass is charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and 2 counts of aggravated child abuse that occurred during the commission of an aggravated battery. The definition or the elements of those criminal offenses will be explained to you later. The state's charging document, which is called an indictment, is not evidence, and it's not to be considered by you as any proof of guilt. It is my responsibility to explain the law to you. It is your responsibility as a juror to determine what the true facts of this case are. Thus, your job and my job are very different in this regard, and this is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. So let me explain briefly how the trial will be conducted. At the beginning of the trial, the lawyers have an opportunity, if they wish to do so, to make opening statements to you. Now, lawyers are not witnesses, so what they say is not testimonial evidence like witness testimony would be, but opening statements are intended to tell you what they think the facts of the case will be during the course of the trial. After opening statements, witnesses will be called, they'll be examined and cross-examined by the lawyers. Documents and other items of physical evidence will also be introduced into evidence. After all evidence has been presented, I'll have the opportunity to instruct you on the law. You'll each have your own written set of jury instructions or the law, so it's not a civics exam. You don't have to memorize anything. That'll be for your use during the course of closing arguments. Then the lawyers will give closing arguments to you, and then you'll retire to begin your deliberations. I'll just remind you, you should not form any definite, fixed, or final opinions on the merits of this case until you have heard all of the evidence, the arguments of the lawyers, and the instructions on the law. During the course of the trial, the state generally goes first in its presentation of evidence, in its examination of witnesses, etc. But please don't come to any definite, fixed, or final opinions until the conclusion of the trial, after you have ability to evaluate all of the evidence and the cross-examination and other evidence that's presented. You should not form, you're not to communication rules. We talked a little bit about on Friday as well. I just want to reiterate, you're not to communicate with anyone, including family or friends or your fellow jurors, about this case or the people and places involved in this case. And just as you may not communicate verbally, that also means any other types of electronic communication, like tweeting or texting or posting on the Facebook or Instagram or whatever all of those programs are that you can do. No doing any independent research of your own, no going by any of the scenes that are described during the course of the trial, or Googling anything about this case, the people and places involved in this case, the law related to this case, or quite frankly, anything going on about what's happening here in the courtroom. During the trial, we will take recesses. You'll be permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs as you have this past weekend. Obviously, all of these communication rules apply during those deliberations. I'll just remind you, while you're here at the courthouse, keep your juror buttons on while you're here. We share common hallways, elevators, entrances with witnesses and family members and other people that might have an interest in this case. So just don't put yourself in the position where you're overhearing people having discussions about this case. And of course, if anyone were to try to come up to you to have a discussion about this case, please remind them that you're on the jury and let one of our bailiffs know so they can advise me. Your cell phones, computers, tablets, other types of electronic devices should be turned off while you're here in the courtroom. And I always say off means really off, not on vibrate. So when it goes off, it still annoys the person sitting next to you. And again, the reason for this is that everyone needs to have and pay 100% attention when our witnesses are testifying and other things are happening in the courtroom. So just don't let your electronic devices be a distraction for your neighbor. Of course, you cannot take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of these proceedings or of your fellow jurors. I'll just remind you, in every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it duty of a defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is never permitted to draw any inference of guilt. And the fact that a defendant chose or did not choose to testify at trial cannot affect your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys here are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure, so it's their duty and obligation to make legal objections that they believe are proper. How that works is, if an objection is made to a question that's asked, if I sustain the objection, that means the witness will not be allowed to answer that question. You shouldn't try to speculate on what the witness might have said had he or she been permitted to answer the question, or speculate about why I'm not letting you hear the answer. It's a legal determination that I've made that it's not appropriate for you to hear. If I overrule the objection, that means the witness will be allowed to answer the question, but you shouldn't hold it against the lawyers or the parties for making objections. As I said, they're doing what they believe are legally proper to preserve the record in the case. Bench conferences. During the trial, it might be necessary, as you saw us do on Friday a couple of times, to talk about matters that are not appropriate for you to hear. We try to do that as seldom as possible. We try to do it up here at the bench in a little bench conference, but the purpose of a bench conference is that you not hear what we're discussing. We are electronically enhanced, and there's speakers above your jury box. So if you are overhearing what's happening up here, there'll always be a bailiff close to you by that door. Let him or her know so that we can adjust our volume up here. Note taking. If you would like to take notes during the trial, you're welcome to. Of course, you are not required to take notes. A few things about note taking for your convenience. I think I see some of them on your laps. We have a plastic sort of container with a notepad and a writing utensil of some sort in there if you'd like to use them. First, please don't become so consumed with taking notes that you forget to listen to the next question or answer that's coming along after that. Sometimes when we're furiously writing, we kind of tune out what's happening, so be careful about that. Secondly, if one of you is a way better note taker than everyone else, that does not mean he or she becomes the official court reporter once you get into the jury room. Sometimes people jot things down wrong, so just because it's in the notes of one of your peers, if you have a different memory, I'm going to ask you to rely on your own independent memories. That's why you've been individually chosen as jurors in the first place. Additionally, rest assured that the notes are for your use and your use alone. The bailiffs keep them secured while you're not using them. They do not become a part of this record. The lawyers do not read them. I do not read them. I'm actually required by law to shred them at the conclusion of the trial. So just rest assured that they're your private notes for your use. As I said, we will take recesses during the course of the trial. Sometimes my idea of when a recess should occur might vary from when your idea of a recess should occur. So if that happens, try to get the attention of one of the bailiffs sitting next to me so he or she can know, or try to let me know to take a recess when appropriate. Again, this is a serious matter. There's a lot of information coming at you, and the average attention span of a human being is something like 15 minutes. And we don't take breaks every 15 minutes. So if you just need a comfort break or just a break to get out of the courtroom and get out of the intensity of what's happening here and just need a break of that sort, please feel free to let us know that. You're not interrupting the proceedings. You're not doing anything wrong. It's not as formal as it appears on TV. We'd all rather have you comfortable and attentive rather than uncomfortable or needing to get out of here and feeling like you're not being able to. Additionally, I have jurors ask all the time, can we ask questions as jurors of the witnesses? That answer is no. The state has the burden of proof, so the questions that are required to be asked need to come from the state, and we don't allow jurors to assist in that endeavor. However, if it's something that you just missed, like you didn't hear it the first time around, or the witnesses are mumbling and the volume is bad or something like that, please feel free to wave your hand and just shout out, repeat that, or say that again, or get the bailiff to let us know that you just need something repeated. In ordinary life, we are able to turn to our friend and say, hey, did that witness say blue or green? But I've told you cannot do that. So it's important that you get it the first time around. So if you just miss something because of the activities in the courtroom and you just need something repeated, please feel free to interrupt us to do that. So I think that's it from me. Any logistical questions before we get started? Everybody good to go? All right. Stay prepared to make an opening statement.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you. The gun discharged. It was an accidental discharge. I was trying to take out the magazine and it went off. They was both in bed. I was in their room. Where was your wife? She was in her room. Those are the words, ladies and gentlemen, of that man seated right over there, Jermaine Bass. Those were the words he told those deputies when they arrived and found these children shot in the head. That was his explanation to them of why 2 children were shot in the head. Accident discharge. I was trying to take out the magazine and it went off. That was his explanation. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see this was no accident. This was not an accident. You're also going to hear, he will tell them where the gun is. In the dresser, upstairs, the silver dresser. You're going to hear him tell them. And sure enough, they go there, they find that gun. And ladies and gentlemen, that gun is the murder weapon. That is the gun that fired the bullets into Jayla Bass and killed her. And the evidence is going to show that. He told them right where that gun was, right next to his wallet. You will not only hear these things, you will see him say these things to the deputies when they arrive on scene. You're going to hear from some of the responding deputies that arrived. These deputies wear what are called body-worn cameras. These cameras capture interactions with citizens, interactions during events. They come on generally when they're responding to a scene. They're not on all the time, but they come on when they're responding to a scene. And these came on for some of these deputies. So you are going to see Jermaine Bass that night. You're going to hear his explanation to the deputies of how both his children ended up shot in the head. What you will not hear from him are any questions about how is his daughter doing? How is his son doing?
Objection. Improper argument.
Sustained.
You will never hear him say it was anyone else other than it was an accidental discharge while I was taking out the magazine. That's what you will hear. But the evidence will show you, ladies and gentlemen, this was no accidental discharge. 5 shots from that Glock. 4 hit their target. 3 of them went into the head of Jermaine Bass, his daughter, his 5-year-old daughter, as she lay in the bed right next to her brother, who was also shot in the head, in the temple. These were aimed, they were precise, they were targeted right to the most crucial part of the body, the head. 5 shots, 4 in the head. That's what the evidence is going to show you, ladies and gentlemen. On August 29th of 2022, this defendant right here walked into that bedroom where these 2 little children were laying in their bed, and he shot 5 times into their heads. Why this man would take the life of his 5-year-old daughter, Jermaine Bass, and attempt to take the life of his 8-year-old son, Jermaine Bass, we may not know. We may never know. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, I told you during voir dire that we don't have to prove motive. But ladies and gentlemen, you will hear some evidence. You will hear some evidence that something was not right in the Bass household. Something was not going right there. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is going to show you that this house involved Jermaine Bass, who lived there with his wife, Shirley Bass, and their daughter, Jayla, and the son, Jermaine, as well. And it might get a little confusing, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to probably call the son JJ. That's kind of the nickname they gave him, because both the son and father are both named Jermaine Bass, and there's no like junior or anything like that. So if you hear me from time to time use the word JJ, I'm referring to the son. So on this date, on August 29th of 2022, you're going to hear that Shirley Bass, the wife, went by herself to a birthday dinner for her sister. You're going to hear that that evening she left around 6 o'clock. She drove down, and where this happened is on Heritage Club. And I believe I told you about this during voir dire. This is an area up near USF. It's up near the Advent Hospital up there on Bruce B. Downs and Fletcher. Right kind of behind there, back in a little neighborhood there. And these are like townhomes that they lived in, okay? It's got an upstairs where the children's bedroom is, and there's a downstairs where it's kind of the kitchen and like a kind of a great room. And you're going to hear that she left at 6. In fact, you'll see video of her car, her white Mercedes, pulling out and heading towards Ruth's Chris Steakhouse down on West Shore. Okay, so she had to go all the way down Fletcher, get on 275, go all the way down to West Shore, if you all are familiar with the area, and then go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, where she was meeting the family for a celebration dinner for her sister. You're going to hear from some people who were at that dinner, and they will tell you Shirley was happy, everything seemed fine. Shirley goes there that night with her niece, China Gadsden, and you're going to hear from China Gadsden as well. All right? She's going to tell you that they were having a wonderful time. As Shirley went, and they had dinner, and everyone was getting along very well. Jermaine was not there. He was supposed to be home taking care of the kids. But he was not home taking care of the kids. The evidence is going to show that he left those kids, drove all the way to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Basically followed Shirley Bass. Why? We don't know, ladies and gentlemen. But he did. The phone records will conclusively show that he left. We also have video of his Nissan truck pulling out and leaving that residence, not long after Shirley leaves. You're going to hear from China that when they were driving away, as they were leaving Ruth's Chris, there was this truck behind her that was really driving aggressively and scaring her. She didn't know what was going on. It's tailgating her. So just as she's pulling onto the on-ramp to get on the interstate, this truck is right on her tail, and she's scared. So she stops the car. This truck pulls around her and stops in front. And who gets out of that car? Jermaine Bass. Gets out of that car angry and goes up to the driver's door thinking that it would be his wife in the driver's seat, but it was China. So he looks at his wife and says, "Are you drunk?" He then goes back into his car and drives away. Don't know why that was, but it's clear, ladies and gentlemen, there was some problems going on in that household. There is evidence to show that there was something going on in that household. And Jermaine Bass, the defendant here, was not happy about it. So you're going to hear that they drive home. Shirley drops off China at her house, which she lived up in that same sort of area. And she goes home. And you're going to see video from an apartment complex. In this video is part of it shows the parking lot area in front of the residence where Shirley and Jermaine lived. And you're going to see the defendant pull in this big truck, park the truck, go inside. A few minutes later, you're going to see Shirley's car pull up. She's going to park the car, and then she goes in. Less than 8 minutes later, you're going to see Shirley Bass outside, looking for help, frantic. Shots had rang out. Just a few minutes from coming home from this dinner to celebrate her sister. Shots. Those are the shots that killed Jayla and seriously hurt Jermaine, JJ. You're going to see video of her out there walking around looking for help. You're going to hear from one of her neighbors, Daquan Evans, who's going to tell you that he heard these shots. It woke him up. So he walks outside and he sees Shirley Bass. And he's on the phone calling 911 and letting them know, "I've heard shots in my neighborhood." And you're going to hear that 911 call. And you will hear Daquan Evans, and then you will hear Shirley get on that phone call. You're going to hear a woman who's frantic, hysterical. It's a very difficult, hard to understand conversation. But you're going to hear her screaming, "My family, you need to get down here. I need help." And she's on that phone with 911. Is the defendant calling 911? No, but you're going to hear evidence that he called another number. After shooting these children, he calls another number, doesn't even call 911. So Shirley's out there, and you're going to hear the whole 911 call. It'll go into evidence. You will have it back there to listen to when you go back and deliberate later in this trial. And you're going to hear that around the 2-minute mark, 2 minutes to 2:40, something changes in Shirley Bass. And based on the video you're going to see of her out there on the phone when she's talking to 911, and at one point she starts jumping. But you're going to see that the door opens up to the house of Shirley and Jermaine, and she walks over there. And right about that time, you're going to hear Shirley Bass on that phone screaming at somebody, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" She's yelling at that man right there, Jermaine Bass. May not be clear if she knows what he's done, but she knows he's done something. And she screams, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" She says it a couple of times. So you're going to hear that 911 call on that night. And then after that 911 call, the deputies arrive. And this is where you'll see what the deputies see when they get there. You're going to get to see it. Because this body-worn camera, it's going to take you into the house. It's going to take you into the apartment. And you're going to see how they walk in there. You're going to see Jermaine Bass holding JJ. And JJ's got a bullet hole to his head. He's still coherent. He's still alive. And he's in pain because he's saying, "Ow, my head." And Jermaine's just holding him. And they ask him, "Is there anyone else here?" He says, "No." So these deputies are clearing the house. And they do what they do when they come into a house and they don't know the situation. They want to make sure they know where everyone is. So they go and check out the rooms, make sure they clear the rooms, and they're going to tell you all about that. That's when they go upstairs and they go into the child's room. And suddenly one of them notices it's a little girl. And you're going to hear her. You're going to hear the moment you notice her. And you're going to hear him go, "Sweetie." And you will see from the body-worn camera, the deputy reach over to take her off that bed. And he will tell you how he takes her off the bed and brings her down, and they try to administer life-saving support for her, but it's too late. But you will see her position. You will see her curled in that bed with blood all around her. This is what those deputies saw on that day. So they take her out. They take Jermaine away. The ambulance arrives and they get her out of there. And then you're going to see the defendant calmly telling him those things that I told you. I was unloading the magazine and it went off. So at this point, they start to collect the physical evidence, and this is where you're going to see all the physical evidence that was collected in this case. You're going to see the shell casings, 5 shell casings that belong to a .380 Glock. All 5 shell casings were found on the bed, the bunk bed in the room. This is a bunk bed. 4 of the casings are found in the top bunk. 1 of the casings is found in the bottom bunk. So again, this is a crime scene. Children have been removed to hopefully save them. And now they are securing the crime scene and they're reviewing all the evidence. And this is what they find. They find damage hole to one of the walls where a bullet clearly went through. And you're going to see that it did go through, and it goes into the bathroom and the adjoining bathroom, and it goes through that bathroom and into the wall. And they're able to obtain that projectile. You're going to see pictures of the condition of the residence at that time. You're going to see pictures of a lot of blood, and I want to warn you that you will, okay? But it's important that you pay attention to those pictures and look at those pictures. You're going to hear from a DNA expert. The Glock is found exactly where the defendant said it would be, in the silver dresser, right next to his wallet. And that Glock is taken out. It's looked at. The magazine in it is now empty. There's no other ammunition in the Glock. And they take that Glock in, and it gets analyzed. The comparison is done with the shell casings, and yes, they match. Those shell casings found in the room were in fact fired from that firearm. And you're going to have a firearms expert who's going to testify to you and explain to you how they know that. You're also hear that the gun was swabbed. And what that means is they take like a solution or water and they rub it on the gun at different areas to determine whether they can pick up any DNA. And you're going to hear that on the grip and trigger, it's combined, so we don't know if it's both or so. But on the grip / trigger, as well as on the base of the gun where the magazine is put in, they're able to obtain DNA. And the DNA does match, in fact, Jermaine Bass. But there's one other source of the DNA, and you're going to hear that it matches the son, JJ, the other Jermaine Bass. Now, I want you to listen to that expert, and she's going to testify to you, and she's also explain to you about transfer DNA and how that occurs. If you touch someone, and they're sweating, or their skin cells get on you, and then you touch an object, you can transfer that person's DNA. Any bodily fluid can transfer the DNA to that property. And you're going to hear from that DNA expert who's going to explain all that to you. You're also going to hear, ladies and gentlemen, from a lady by the name of Anna Cox, who's what's called a blood spatter expert or blood stain expert. She's going to tell you and talk to you about those pictures and the blood analysis that she shows. What she will tell you is that both of these children were shot right next to each other. That their heads literally had to be almost touching. You're going to hear about what's called blood spatter, but it's where when a person is shot, the blood, once a bullet enters, has to expel from the body. And when it does, it creates a pattern. She's going to explain all that to you. And you're going to hear that the only place that pattern appears is on that top bunk, on the corner, by the wall, and on the railing there. The DNA on that spot matches the DNA of Jayla Bass and JJ, Jermaine Bass. She's going to tell you they were right next to each other when they were shot. The last moments of Jayla's life was laying in that bed next to her big brother. You're going to hear about other blood. Their blood drips down from the bed to the lower bunk bed, creating other patterns. That she's going to describe all that to you. Ladies and gentlemen, her father, the owner of that gun, wanted these deputies to believe this was an accident.
Objection, improper argument.
Overruled.
That is what he told them. In those initial moments when the deputies arrived, that's what he tells them. This was an accident. An accidental discharge of 5 rounds. This isn't an automatic gun where you hold it down and it just fires repeatedly. You're going to hear from the firearms expert, every single one of those 5 shots had to pull that trigger. Every single one. It's not that if you hold it down, it'll go off. You're going to hear from this firearms expert. This was no accident, ladies and gentlemen. Not even close. This was a deliberate, intentional, premeditated act to kill those 2 children. Done by that man right there, Jermaine Bass. The state has no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of the evidence in this case, that you will find the defendant guilty as charged of first-degree murder, guilty as charged of aggravated child abuse, 2 counts, and guilty as charged of attempted first-degree murder. Thank you.
Would the defense like to make an opening statement at this time?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good morning. Jermaine Bass, my client, did not shoot his children. What happened on August 29, 2022 was tragic. And you're going to hear a lot of testimony about what happened on that day. And a lot we are not going to be in dispute about with the state. Where it happened, what time it happened, how many shots were fired, things of that nature. You're going to see that there's not a lot that we're going to be disputing about. But the most important part, we are. Who was responsible? Who fired the gun that injured Jayla and JJ Bass? You're going to hear the evidence because as the judge instructed you, what we say is not evidence. The evidence you're going to hear from the witness stand and from the exhibits in this case. And when you hear the evidence, pay close attention to the timeline of the events. When Shirley calls 911 and you're going to hear that call, she is not asking for police. She's asking for an ambulance. She's asking for medical help repeatedly, and you will hear it for yourself. Mr. Terry stood up here and said that he wants you to believe that it's an accident, but pay attention to what Shirley says as well about what happened. The 911 operator is continuously asking her, who fired the gun? Did somebody drive by? And pay attention to what her answers are close in time to the events. When police start their investigation, pay attention to who the police are able to talk to right away and who they have to wait to speak to. This story about Jermaine on the highway with China Gadsden and Shirley Bass doesn't come to police attention until over a year after the incident. Pay attention to who's cooperating. You'll hear from the lead detective in the case and the efforts that he made to speak to Jermaine, to JJ, and to speak to Shirley about what happened. You'll hear, obviously, that after this happened and JJ was injured, he was in the hospital for a while. And then they made efforts to speak to him once he was released. You'll hear from Detective Gabbott that Shirley was uncooperative when they tried to interview her son, that they were not able to investigate her phone because she never turned it over to law enforcement for them to look at any kind of communications that were happening that night. Shirley does not call 911 from her phone. She goes across, and the phone that she is using to dial 911 is Mr. Evans' phone, an across the street neighbor. You're going to hear that Detective Gabot had difficulty reaching out to Shirley, that they made efforts to interview JJ at the Mary Lee House. And the Mary Lee House is a location where law enforcement routinely interviews children because they're treated differently than an adult witness. And you'll hear that the first time they set it up, Shirley came, but then refused to let the interview happen. Then they tried again that afternoon, and you'll hear that JJ was disruptive, that he refused, that he walked away, and he didn't talk to them. They tried to set it up again on a later date, and he did not appear. Finally, detectives had to serve Shirley with an investigative subpoena. They tried to get her to cooperate voluntarily, but then they were trying to force it. An investigative subpoena is not an invitation, it's a demand. So she brings him in. And when they do, he says that he does not remember what happened on that night. And that's where we're left. You're not going to hear from JJ because the state and I, the defense, agree that if he was to come in, all he would say is that he doesn't remember what happened that night. So you're not going to hear from him. My client was cooperative with law enforcement. You're going to see how he brings his son down from the bedroom after his son is injured and is waiting downstairs while Shirley goes and calls 911 to get an ambulance to help him. He stays with his son. You'll see the interaction that he has with law enforcement. And pay attention to the evidence and the investigation that's done at the scene. As Mr. Terry told you, there's blood evidence at the scene. There's testing that's done. There's additional testing that is done because it's confusing. Children were moved. And so there's a question as to where things happen. And so the additional testing that was done in this case helps give you a clearer picture of what happened in that room. You'll see a purse that was found in the children's room that belonged to Shirley that has ammunition in it, and a holster, and a magazine. You'll also see an empty holster and a child's bassinet that's in the kid's bedroom, along with a little plate that has some eaten food on it. Pay attention to the inconsistencies in the testimony and the evidence. Listen not only to the answers that the witnesses say when the state asks questions, but also when we ask questions. There'll be different versions told by the witnesses and the evidence in the case. Listen with a critical ear. Use your discernment and your common sense in this case. Pay attention to where everyone is when shots are fired, what they saw and what they heard. The gun that was recovered in the master bedroom and the dresser, the testing that was done on the scene. And as the state told you, you're gonna hear that not only was Jermaine, my client's DNA on the gun, but JJ's gun. And pay attention to why that area is swabbed. There's different areas that are swabbed, and the grip and the trigger are swabbed to determine who's handling the gun. That's why those areas are swabbed. And JJ's DNA is on that gun. In the end, you're gonna have more questions in this case than answers. The state is gonna try very hard, as you heard in opening statement, to try to convince you that my client shot his children that night. What they say is not evidence in the case or the true facts. The evidence comes from the witnesses, and you all were selected to determine what the true facts are in this case. Your job is the toughest job in this room. You have to determine what happened on a day that you were not there with people that you do not know. And it's gonna be difficult and it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be emotional testimony, but you were picked for a reason. You agreed not to base your decision on sympathy or bias. You agreed to hold the state to their burden in this case. And you agreed to presume my client innocent. As difficult as it might be, that is your job as a juror. What happened on that day is very tragic and sad, but my client did not shoot his children. You will understand why he said what he said to police. At the end of the case, after listening to all the evidence and the law, you will agree and find Jermaine Bass not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. State can call your first witness.
State will call Rebecca McLeman.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Step this way.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
If you would, please introduce yourself and spell your name for us.
I'm Rebecca McLeman, MacLeman, and I'm the 911 records custodian for Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
All right, thank you, McLeman. Ms. McLeman, I was just about to ask you, what do you do? And what are the jobs and duties of a records custodian of 911 at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
I save all calls as requested.
Okay. And is that part of your regular course of business, what you do is routinely?
It is.
Okay. And to explain to the jury, if you can, how these 911 calls are recorded, how they come in, and all of that.
They're recorded automatically from the time that the call is answered and then end when the call is disconnected. In that call, we get all kinds of information, date, time, call taker, location, phone number, address, and any other information that we may gain from that.
All right. Now, you're not the one who's answering these phones. You're just in charge of recording them, correct?
Now, yes.
Now, okay, but there was a time when you did that?
Yes.
Portion. Okay. Have you had an opportunity to listen to a recording in this particular case?
Yes,
All right. And was that recording regularly kept in the course of business at your work?
it was.
All right. And I'm gonna show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 1 for identification. You recognize that?
I do.
All right, and is this the actual recording you listened to?
It is.
And is this a true, in fact, recording of the 911 call that was taken on that day, August 29th of 2022?
It is.
Judge, move to publish this at this time?
Sure.
You should move. That's right, that's right there, I remember now. It says it's playing. Don't hear it. You played it earlier. Played it earlier.
You gotta project it up.
Oh, project it up.
I just heard that.
Okay, do you know what area it's coming from? Like, is it coming from 137, 20?
Monday, August 29, 2022, 22:33 and 42 seconds.
911, do you need police, fire, or medical?
Hey, how you doing? It's an emergency. I just heard some gunshots in my neighborhood.
Okay, let's see.
13915, American, Heritage Club Drive, Tampa, Florida.
This is a house, mobile home, or apartment?
An apartment I heard outside.
Okay, how many shots did you hear?
I heard a couple, but a lady downstairs said something bad is happening. I don't know. I just heard gunshots. I did.
Okay, do you know what area it's coming from? Like, is it coming from 137, 42nd, any specific area?
No, just in the neighborhood.
Okay. How long ago did you hear them?
Just like 2 minutes ago.
Okay. Now, after you heard the shot, did you see or hear anything else suspicious? Somebody screaming, a car that sped off really quickly, anything like that?
Oh, yeah, she right there right now.
Okay. Do you want to put her on the phone?
Yeah. Want to get on the phone? Yeah.
Sheriff's office, can you tell me what happened? Okay, what happened? Yes, I'm getting them on the phone, okay? What happened? Okay, hold on, ma'am, I can't understand a word you're saying because you're crying. Okay, ma'am, hold on. Take a deep breath. I can't understand you when you're crying like that. Take a deep breath. What happened?
Listen, I just need you to something, whatever for dad to say. Just please.
What happened? I have to call it. What happened? Did somebody get shot?
Someone shot.
Someone shot who? Yes, ma'am, take a deep breath. Ma'am, listen, stop, ma'am. Stop talking and breathe. Just stop talking and breathe. Yes, I understand, ma'am. I can't understand you. Okay.
I do not know what fucking happened. Okay,
All right, I'm getting you on the phone, ma'am. Ma'am. Ma'am, what's going on?
My kid.
Ma'am, stop yelling and talk to me. Who has a gun? Ma'am,
Can you put in the car?
ma'am, the cops are already on the way. You need to answer my question.
You can't pick up.
So who has a gun? Ma'am, stop yelling and talk to me. Who has a gun?
Break the fucking ambulance outside, it's bleeding.
Okay, where is he bleeding?
Can you break your asshole?
Ma'am, the call's already in.
Now let me ask you, there's a pause right here. What is that?
She disconnected.
Okay. And then she calls back, or someone from that number calls back, is that
Correct.
correct?
Number one, do you need police, fire, or medical? Hello? Hello, ma'am. Okay, I have deputies on the way. Where is he shot at? Okay. Okay, the ambulance and cops are on the way. Where is he shot?
Oh my God, in his head. Can you fucking call?
Okay, who shot him in the head?
Oh my God.
Who shot him in the head, ma'am? Okay, nobody, was it a car that drove by?
No.
Okay, is this somebody you know? Somebody from the house?
Yeah, we was in the house. Put him in the fucking gun out, and I found red.
Where did he go?
He was supposed to be in bed, but he wasn't asleep.
Okay, the person with the gun, where is he at right now? Tell me. Ma'am, I have every deputy on the way right now. I need to know where the person with the gun is. Ma'am. Ma'am, stop yelling. Ma'am, what's the house number that he's at? I have a call in. 139 what? What is it, 13915? Okay, ma'am, I'm trying to get the guy who did this, and I need to know where he is with the gun. Ma'am, they're coming. The police and the ambulance are on the way. Okay, well, they're coming. They're coming, lights and sirens, emergency. So where's the guy with the gun? Ma'am, where's the subject with the gun? I got two deputies on Brewski Downs right now, so I need to know where the guy with the gun is. They're both coming. The police need to secure the scene so the EMS people are safe. I need to know where the guy with the gun is. Okay, the person with the gun, where is he?
And it cuts off there. Was that, who hung up there?
She did.
Okay. All right, Judge, I don't have any further questions of this witness.
All right.
Good morning.
Morning.
Very briefly. So this is two separate calls because you have the first call, there was a hang up, and then the person calls back. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
All right. Is she released?
Yes, sir.
Jeez.
All right, you could step down and you're released from your subpoena. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Today we'll call Daquan Evans.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Morning. If you would please introduce yourself and spell your name for us.
I'm Daquan Evans. First name Daquan, last name Evans.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Evans. If you could, where are you currently living?
I live in Ocala, Florida.
Back in 2022, in August of 2022, where were you living at that time?
I was staying off 13. Well, I can't remember the name of it, but I was down here in school as a student athlete in some condominium apartments.
What school were you going to?
University of South Florida.
Right, and you were a student at, what were you playing?
Football.
All right. And what are you doing now?
I'm a mentor for Wake Up Mentoring based out of Orlando, Florida.
All right. Now going back to August 22nd August 29th of 2022, you were a student here at USF, and were you living in the Heritage Club apartments?
Yes, sir.
All right. On that particular night, did something happen?
Yes, sir.
All right. What do you recall? When do you recall the first time knowing something was going on?
I heard like 4 or 5 shots
All right. Where were you when you heard those shots?
in my house, in my room.
All right. And you described 4 or 5. Is that how many you thought you heard?
Yeah.
All right. What did you do upon hearing those shots?
Like back at home, I'm used to hearing those type of things going on, so I just reacted and made sure I was good in the house and just really stayed there until I heard, something else from my Ring camera, and I just went downstairs and I ran into a lady.
How long after you heard these shots did you hear this or see this lady?
On my Ring camera, probably like next 5 to 10 minutes.
All right. Could it have been quicker than that, or longer than that? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
All right. What did you do upon seeing this lady?
I went downstairs and she asked for help, basically for me to call, the officers. She asked for the address,
Okay.
and that's what I did.
All right. And were you in fact the person who called 911?
Yes, sir.
All right. And it was your phone she was on during that conversation?
Yes, sir.
All right. How did she appear to you?
Like shocked, like she was lost the words a little bit.
All right. Now you mentioned a ring camera. So your building had a Ring camera at that point in time?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm gonna show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 7. Did you have a chance to look at this video?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this is a video, in fact, from your Ring camera on that night?
Yes, sir.
All right. And does this fairly and accurately depict kind of what happened in that moment when she was at your door?
Yes, sir.
All right. Judge moved out State's Exhibit number 7 admitted into evidence.
No objection.
It's admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
What is the address?
12915.
So that's all the Ring camera was able to record on that particular moment?
Yes, sir.
And that woman out there, that's the woman who you gave the phone to when you were talking to 911?
Yes, sir.
Now, you said on the 911 call that the shots were about 2 minutes before you called 911. Would that be about right?
Yes, sir.
After hearing those shots, calling 911 and seeing that lady out there, did you do anything else?
I went back to sleep.
Okay. And did you eventually talk to officers or detectives in the case?
That I can remember, I know a detective came back to my house, I think a couple of days later, and she got the Ring footage. That's
She
all.
got the Ring footage from you?
Yeah.
All right. Judge Birmingham, 1 moment.
Yes.
And just to be clear, you said you called 911 2 minutes after you hear these shots, or about that time.
Yes, sir.
Had you seen Shirley Williams before you called 911?
No, sir.
You called 911 first, and then you saw Miss Williams at the door, or how did the timing of it work?
No, after the ring camera, then I called it for her.
Then you called?
Yeah.
So you'd seen her at the ring door before, and then you called 911?
Yeah, when she asked.
Okay. And again, you described her as shocked?
Yeah,
All right, was she be able to communicate with you?
a little bit. That's for me to call 911. That's all I can remember.
All right, Judge, I don't have any further questions of Mr. Evans.
Right?
Good morning, Mr. Evans.
Come on.
Now, back in August of 2022, you were living at that Heritage Club Apartments.
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you lived there at that point?
Probably like a year.
Okay. And your schedule was pretty busy back then in the summer?
Yes, ma'am.
So it wasn't a situation where you would kind of hang out around the apartment or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
All of the places in that complex are all townhouses?
Yes, ma'am.
And you live there with a roommate?
Yes, ma'am.
Did your roommate ever come out or do anything when this happened?
No, ma'am. He was asleep.
Okay, so you were asleep also when you did hear the shots?
Yeah, once I heard him, I woke up.
Okay, and you said that you came downstairs, so your bedroom, I assume, is upstairs?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And then you come downstairs and end up coming outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Did anyone come to your door, or was she there at your door as you were walking out?
Just when I opened it, right there.
Okay. And the person that you saw that the state is describing as Shirley Williams, she wasn't someone that was known to you, right?
I don't know her at all.
Okay, so you didn't know that they lived across or anywhere that never had any contact with them?
No, ma'am.
The setup of the complex that you were at, your townhouse building, there would be like a couple of townhouses right next to each other.
Yes, ma'am.
And yours was, I believe, the second one or the first one?
Probably the second or third one, because it's in the middle.
Okay. And then there's like a walkway or a sidewalk, and then there's townhouses across from you, and you all face each other.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then if you were to come out of where your townhouse is and turn, that's the parking lot where you would be assigned a parking spot or whatever for your unit.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the parking spaces across from your parking space would be assigned to the units that are next to that.
Yes, ma'am.
It almost forms like a T, right? Like you guys would be across from each other, and then there would be other townhouses that are kind of dead end from where you were.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you kept going past your townhouse, there would be like a pool and other units that way, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When you first came out, was there anyone else out there besides this woman?
Not that I remember.
Okay. And you end up being the one that first calls 911.
Yes.
And then as you're talking to the operator on 911, you end up handing the phone over to the female who came to your door.
That I can remember, yes.
Okay. And you don't have any other contact other than maybe at some point getting your phone back.
No, that's all.
Okay. So you go back to sleep. You don't know anything else about what happened.
No, ma'am.
And as far as this person appearing to be in shock or anything like that, you don't know her, but that was kind of your first impression of her demeanor at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
If I could have one moment.
Yes.
Nothing further.
Mr. Evans, just to clear something up, I misspoke and I called her Shirley Williams. Her name's Shirley Bass. Do you know Shirley Bass?
No, sir.
Okay, so when you saw that lady at your door, was that the first time you'd seen her?
Yes, sir.
All right. Had you ever spoken to her previous to that?
No, sir.
Did you ever speak to her after that?
No, sir.
All right, so that was the only time that you had ever seen Miss Bass?
Yes, sir.
All right. Nothing further, Judge.
All right. You can step down, sir. Thank you. He released from his subpoena.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Call your next witness.
State will call Deputy Scott Rainey. Coach, just for a second?
Sure.
Right here, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
You come this way.
Good morning. If you would please introduce yourself and spell your name for us.
Yes, ma'am. Deputy Rainey, R-A-N-N-E-Y.
You have a first name?
Scott.
Thank
Judge,
you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm just gonna remove all objections as to this witness and
All
his
right.
evidence at this time.
Thank you. Same rulings.
Deputy, how are you currently employed?
At the District 1 office as a patrol deputy.
All right, and you work for the sheriff's office?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been working with Hillsborough County Sheriff?
15 years.
All right. And what are your duties as a patrol deputy?
To answer calls when they come out, answer calls for service.
All right. And what was your position back on August the 29th of 2022?
I was an FTD,
And what does that mean?
a field training deputy that trains the new deputies as they come on.
All right. And who were you training at that time?
Deputy Rahman.
All right. And when you're training a deputy, do you work together with that deputy?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you all ride in the same car?
Yes, sir.
And you go to the same scenes together?
Yes, sir.
And if he has questions, does he ask you what to do?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how long had you been working with, who were you working with on that day? Who were you training?
Deputy Rahman.
All right. How long had you been training Deputy Roman?
There's different phases. We were in 4th phase at that point, which is a 2-week period, and we were on the 1st week.
Okay. And once he's done with that phase, does he go out on his own at that point?
Yes.
All right, so he was nearing the completion of his training at that time?
Yes.
All right. Deputy, what zone were you working back on August 29th of 2022?
Alpha 4.
And where is that zone, if you can explain to the jury where Alpha 4 is?
Alpha 4 is from Nebraska to Del Mabry and from Fowler up to Bears.
Okay. Does the Heritage Club apartments, did they fall within your zone?
No.
Okay. Why did you respond to the Heritage Club apartments on that night, or did you respond to the Heritage Club?
Yes, we responded because we were closer to the district that time, which is closer to where those apartments are. And because I had a recruit, that is a very good call for a recruit to go to.
Okay, so you can respond to other zones if there's an emergency and you need to go there?
Yes,
All right, and it happened to be that you were kind of close to that area at that time?
correct.
All right. Where is this area, Heritage Club apartments located?
It's off of 37th Street.
I'm gonna, if you show me one time, I'll remember from here. Push that in. Send it, I got you, okay. I'm showing you what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 26A for identification. And I'm gonna ask you to take a look behind you at the overhead, at the video. All right, do you see in there where Heritage Club Drive is, the location where this incident occurred?
Yes.
If you could, please, could you stand up and point to it and kind of describe it so it can be on the record?
It's right here in this area.
Which is basically kind of the middle of the screen?
Correct.
And is there, and what's next to it? Is there like an identification tag? Or
As in the
a
red
marker?
dot?
Yeah, red dot?
Yes.
Okay, and that's where the apartment was located that you went to on that day?
Correct.
And where is like Fletcher and Bruce B. Downs and USF and all that? Can you
Bruce
describe
B.
it?
Downs is over here, Fletcher is right along here, and this was the 37th Street I was talking about.
Okay. Right, and showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 26B that's previously been introduced into evidence. Is this the apartment complex we're talking about?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Back it up. All right, and can you tell kind of where you went on that particular day? Do I have it backwards, or how do I have the?
Can you spin it that way? Okay, yes, so this is again 37th Street right here.
Right.
And then when
On
you
the
go in-
left, on the left part of
Yes.
the,
On the left side right here.
thank you.
And then Fletcher would be down on the southern part and Bruce B. Downs would be over on this side. He goes up and around.
All right, and where did you go in and how did you enter into the scene?
We entered in on this right here, and then we went up, and into the actual apartment is up a little higher, like right here.
And you're pointing to the top part of the picture, to the
Yeah.
building, like, right in the middle of all those buildings?
Correct.
And that's the location of the apartment you all went to?
Yes,
on
sir.
that- On that particular evening?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. You can go ahead and sit down. What did you believe you were responding to? What was the call about?
The call just went out as a shooting call, but it didn't give a lot of details. It didn't say, who was a victim or anything. It just said somebody was shot.
All right. Were you one of the first units to arrive on scene?
Yes, sir. There was approximately 4 of us that got there close to the same time.
Who were the other deputies who responded at the same time?
Deputy Jones, Deputy Rahman with me, and Deputy White.
Okay. Describe to the jury what you saw as you were driving up to the scene and as far as the outside of the apartment.
There wasn't a whole lot outside, just, a lot of cars because it's an apartment complex. When we were going towards the apartment, getting close to the door, there was a female outside, and then, we went past her and went on inside to the apartment.
Well, was the female saying anything? How was she behaving?
She was saying something. I wasn't close to her. There was another deputy, I believe it was Deputy Jones, was already talking to her when we got there, and we went around another way and went to the door.
All right. And did you in fact enter the scene?
Yes, sir.
What did you see when you went into the residence?
When I went in, you immediately went into like a kitchen area to the left. There was a TV on the left side and a couch on the right side, and there was a gentleman sitting there holding a juvenile in his arms.
All right. And what did you do at that point?
At that point, we went up to him to see what was going on, and you could see blood on the juvenile's head. So we were trying to figure out where the blood was coming on, figure out what was going on, and had my recruit go out, get a med bag, and start, treating him.
Okay. And did you speak with this man?
Yes.
All right. And what did he tell you happened?
He told me that there was an accidental discharge, and the gun went off and hit the child.
All right. Did you know about another child upstairs?
Not at that time, no.
Okay. When did you first hear about the other child upstairs?
When Deputy White came downstairs and said that there was another victim upstairs.
Had the defendant, Mr. Bass, ever said anything to you about this other victim upstairs?
No.
All right. Did you ever go upstairs?
At one point, I did go upstairs. I got up to the top of the stairs. I was able to see that there was enough deputies up there treating the other child, so I went right back downstairs.
Were you wearing a body-worn camera on that day?
Yes.
All right. Explain to the jury what a body-worn camera is, how it works.
So a body-worn camera is the camera for a normal call that you go to, you have to turn it on yourself, but anytime like we pull out our weapon, turn on your taser, turn your lights on your car, it automatically comes on, but we use it every single call we go to, we turn it on. And it records everything. It can see everything we see, it sees.
Are you in fact wearing a body-worn camera right now?
Yes.
Can you point it out and show it to the jury where it's located?
It's right here.
The record reflect he's standing up and identifying like a black box in the center of his chest.
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's already been introduced as State's Exhibit number 2. Did you in fact review this?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And is this in fact a copy of the body-worn camera you were wearing on that day?
Yes.
All right. And does it fairly and accurately depict what you saw when you arrived on scene?
Yes.
All right, Judge, I'm going to publish it now.
Nobody else is in the house, right?
Hey, can you two go to help him? Get clear up here. Take him to the hospital. Call the family.
Alright, paramedics are coming right now.
Oh, please, now.
What happened? What happened? What happened?
The gun is shot. Gun is
Okay, okay. Somebody got a med bag, get a med bag.
Oh, God, no. Please, hurry.
They're coming, they're coming. 52 on EMS.
Hey, can you hear me? Please, hurry. They're here, they're coming. They're coming.
Yeah, they're already cleared upstairs, we cleared it downstairs.
It's okay, it's okay. Don't move.
Not yet. Hang in there, buddy, come on, hang in there. He said it was an accidental discharge.
Thank you.
46 is station, number 1025, and the house is cleared.
We got another juice coming up there.
Okay, on. Out 47, be advised, there's another gunshot victim upstairs. It's a juvenile female. Yes, 10-4. How did the accidental discharge happen? What happened?
It was going, I was...
From you or somebody else?
I was trying to take out the magazine and it went off.
Alright, we'll get it figured out. Just stay calm for now. What happened upstairs?
Nothing happened upstairs. You have those two,
Hey, we still have to get some zeros, so make sure you check that out.
Got you. Is she breathing?
Where's the gun right now? It's upstairs, some dress on top of it. On top of the dress. One is, she'll be in the dresser, in that silver dresser. The middle, in the master dress.
You gonna go check the one?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. What's one upstairs?
Hey, what's upstairs?
It's worse upstairs.
Okay. Adult?
No, juvenile, female.
Okay. Take this one to the rescue. Two juvenile.
Stay right where you're at. Stand up for me real quick. I'm just gonna pat you down for weapons, please. Just put them on your head. On your head. There you go. Turn around for me. You got nothing on you right now.
Got something on the side of the head.
Left side of his head. All right, have a seat. You're good.
Hey guys, get up there. You're coming down now. When you have 4-year-old. Where at? It's through.
So you're saying that whatever happened to him, is that your son?
Both of those are my kids.
Both of those are your kids? So it accidentally discharged and hit your son. What happened to your daughter upstairs?
The same thing. They was both in the bed together.
They were both in the bed together?
Yes. I think our range, you know what?
You're saying both kids were in the bed together and you were in their room?
I was in there.
People upstairs?
Out 47, the father's saying that he shot both of them with one round accidentally, the gun went off. So nobody else was in this house, just you and them?
Me, my wife.
And your wife? Where was she at?
She was in her room.
She was in her room?
I went to the window.
You need to be ready.
Yeah.
Deputy, was Mr. Bass eventually taken into custody at that point?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you have any further involvement in this case?
No, sir.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Judge, I'll pass the witness.
All right.
Morning, Deputy Rainey, how are you?
Good, ma'am.
I only have a couple additional questions
Yes,
for you.
ma'am.
All right, so when you entered the home, you saw Mr. Bass sitting on the couch cradling his son, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you could see that his son, JJ, had been injured.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there was actual blood that was bleeding from JJ onto the father, Mr. Bass, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And throughout your contact with Mr. Bass, he was cooperative with you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And we heard on the body cam, he was yelling such stuff as, "Just help my child." Do you remember hearing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At some point, you are talking to him, and he says something about the gun being on the dresser. But then later, do you recall he does in fact say on or in the silver dresser?
I remember him saying on the dresser. I think some other deputies were coming in and out and trying to say, we still haven't found it yet. But I don't recall that part.
That's okay. So do you believe then that at some point that he says on, but then does say it's in the silver dresser?
It's a possibility, yes.
All right. Other deputies body cams?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it's you, Deputy White is there, Deputy Jones, and you are training Deputy Rahman, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He also indicates that his wife was there as well. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Judge, may we approach the bench?
Yes.
Deputy Rainey, may I have a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Deputy Rainey. I don't have any other questions for you.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor, nothing else.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to step down and remain outside for just a couple minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we'll go ahead and take a break.
All rise.
All right, have a seat. Do you want to bring him back in and go ahead and do those? All right, the record should reflect the jury is not present. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Just state your name again so we know who's testifying.
Deputy Scott Rainey.
Okay. Now, Deputy Rainey, when you arrived, your body cam started about 10:44. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you originally asked what happened, and Mr. Bass indicated the gun discharges, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Then, within the, pretty much the same time limit at, let me step back. 5:37, you're stepping in and you asked, and he says gun discharges, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry about that. About 6:15 on the audio, a deputy is heard saying, "We got another one up here." Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it sounds like it's pretty quickly on that you and other deputies determined that there is another victim upstairs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, at some point, I see you, I believe you to be walking outside, and you must be talking to, like, other deputies on your radio?
To dispatch.
Dispatch?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Is that like a separate from your body cam, or how do you do that?
That's connected to your radio, yes. So dispatch calls through, but the camera can hear and still everything that it's being said, yes.
Okay. Now, at this point, before you do that, Mr. Bass has only made the statement that the gun discharged, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, in fact, when you step outside, correct me if I'm wrong, I hear you say, "The house is clear," and then you say, somebody says something, and then you're saying, "Yeah, we know about the second victim." Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. At that point, at some point, when have you might be doing other stuff, you walk back in, and that's where you get more specific with Mr. Bass concerning, "Tell me more about this, who did it, how did it happen, where were you, where are the kids?" Fair?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you testified in a deposition, Mr. Thierry and I were present, and we asked you some questions, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had an opportunity to review that before you testified today?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent, okay. Now, let me ask you this. You decided that at a certain point, Miranda needed to be read, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the jury's not here, we can talk about that. And you had, I believe, Deputy Rumman do that since he's in training.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I had asked you in deposition, what made you decide that point? And do you remember telling me, and is it your testimony today, that you were getting information that the house was clear and that you had determined or y'all knew there was a second victim? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Once you knew that, you knew the house was clear, and you knew that there was a second victim, that's afterwards when you walk back in and you have conversation more specifically with Mr. Bass for a little bit of time, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 minutes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then at a later time, Deputy Rahman reads Miranda.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, when you had stepped out, you knew the house was clear, and you had said, we could hear it, the house is clear, house is fine, there's a second victim upstairs. Is it not true that Mr. Bass was not free to leave at that point?
You could look at it that way, yes.
Okay. And in fact, do you remember testifying in deposition to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You remember being at the motion to suppress, where we all kind of agreed to the judge who had your deposition that you said when you had those 2 factors, you had not read Miranda and Mr. Bass was not free to leave, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're admitting you're asking him questions?
I don't remember asking any questions after
Oh, no,
he
no,
was
no.
read Miranda.
Yeah, no, sir. I'm talking about before, sorry about that. You're asking him specific questions.
At that point, I didn't tell him he wasn't free to leave yet, no.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is, after you get the information that the house is clear and you get the information there's a second victim, you go back inside, you're asking him additional questions, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The questions as we discussed, and it's at that point he said he basically did it, he was cleaning the gun, etc.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that, we're talking a little bit earlier. All right. May I have just a moment? Thank you so much, Deputy.
Did you want anything on the record from you?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he released from his subpoena now?
He is not, Judge.
All right, you're to remain on
free to leave.
standby, but you can
Yes.
leave the courthouse.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, we'll be in recess.
Court's in recess.
Be seated. Call your next witness.
City Call Deputy Adam Rahman.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. If you would, please introduce yourself and spell your name for us.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deputy Rahman. That's Rahman.
First name?
Adam.
Good morning, Deputy Rahman. Where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, and I'm assigned to the Patrol Division, and I work in District 1.
All right. How long have you been working with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
Approximately 4 years.
Did you have any prior law enforcement experience before that?
No, I did not.
All right. Back on August 29th of 2022, what were you doing at that time?
I was assigned to the Patrol Division that night, and I was completing just one of my normal 12-hour shifts.
Okay. What are your general duties as a patrol deputy?
We handle various calls for service, we conduct traffic stops, and we do proactive policing to deter crime.
Now, back on August 29th of 2022, how long had you been employed as a Hillsborough County Sheriff's Deputy?
I did approximately 1 year in the academy, and I was finishing up the FTO process, which is approximately 4 months.
All right, and what is that, so it's a 4-month process. During that time period, are you assigned to work with someone?
Yeah, so I'm assigned to another deputy who's pretty much like he will train me per each shift, and I was finishing it up. I had 2 days left with him, and then I was going to be on my own.
All right, and who was this deputy? Who was your field training deputy?
Deputy Rainey.
Now, when as you work with Deputy Rainey, do you all ride together and go to each of the calls together?
Yes, we do. I'm typically the one driving, and he's the one sitting in the passenger seat, just foreseeing what I'm doing and making sure that I'm not messing up anything critical.
All right. Now, on August 29th of 2022, did you receive a call to respond to a scene out on Heritage Club Drive?
Yes, I did.
And did you recall what was it that you believed you were responding to at that time?
We were responding to a shooting call for service.
All right. And were you one of the first units on scene?
Yes, I was.
What did you do when you arrived?
Well, once we arrived, we coordinated with the other deputies that were on scene, and we made a tactical entry into the living room. And then what we observed once we got on scene, we observed a adult male, Jermaine Bass, the defendant, and he was holding his son, who's also named Jermaine Bass, on the couch in the living room.
Prior to going into the residence, when you pulled up, did you see anyone outside, or did you observe anyone outside?
Yes, I believe I saw it was the mother Shirley. She was outside and she was screaming. She was just pretty much just screaming at the top of her lungs.
Okay. And could you tell really what she was saying?
Not exactly. I can't make out what she was saying, but she was screaming.
How would you describe her demeanor at that point?
Very frantic and scared, and just horrific is a good word to use for it.
Now, when you made the tactical decision to go in, do you all take out your firearms as you do that?
Yes, we all did have our lethal weapons drawn.
All right, and what's the point of that?
Because we don't know what we're going into when we get a shooting call for service. There is the undeniable that there is a firearm located in the house, or there isn't a firearm located in the house. And once we determine that the scene is safe and there is no credible threat, that's when we holster our weapons.
Okay. So you described that you went into the residence, you saw the defendant, Jermaine Bass,
Yes, sir.
and he was holding his child?
Yes, he was.
And just for the record right now, do you see the person you saw in that room holding that child on that day?
Yes, I do.
Can you identify him just for the record?
He's sitting over there in the gray tuxedo.
Record reflection, he has identified the defendant, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right. Now, who all entered with you, do you recall?
Yes, it was me, Deputy Rainey, Deputy Vander Bosch, Deputy White, and Deputy Nathaniel Jones. We were the initial first deputies on scene.
All right. As you go in, and you said you saw the defendant there holding his child, what else did you go upstairs?
So I did not go upstairs. Once we observed the defendant, Jermaine Bass, holding his son, we observed what appeared to be a gunshot wound to the left side of his head. And immediately we just attempted to render medical aid. Me and my partner, Deputy Vanderbosch, we grabbed our agency-issued medical kit, and we began to wrap his head in gauze to try to put pressure on the wound and stop the bleeding.
All right. Did you hear the father saying anything about what happened?
Yes, he made the spontaneous statement that it was an accidental discharge.
All right. Were you wearing a body-worn camera on that day?
Yes, I was.
All right. And have you had a chance to review what's already been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit number 4?
Yes, I have.
All right. And does this pretty fairly accurately depict what you saw when you went through on that morning?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Judge, just renew your objections to the testimony.
All right, thank you.
Judge.
Hey, can you two go help him? Yep, they're up here. Take him to the hospital. Alright, everybody's calm. Oh, please, now. The gun discharge. Somebody got a med bag. Get a med bag. You want to bring him out? Please, hurry. They're coming. Hey, can you hear me? They're here. They're coming. Yeah, they're cleared upstairs. We turned it downstairs. All right, y'all ready for
It's okay.
You're okay. Not yet. We got 2 GSODs. What happened upstairs? Said it was an accidental discharge. Accident discharge. Even the one upstairs? Yes. Where's he at? Oh, we got a light on? Here, I'll. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, well, we got these bands right. You want to throw this on? Where's the firearm? In the room. In the master bedroom on the dresser. Okay. You packed those. Where's he hit? I don't know where he's hit. Who's in the leg? So he's got one in the head. No, one on the scalp, one in the head. Here. Yeah, here. We're gonna have to lift this out. How was the accident discharge happen? Let's see. It was going, I was trying to take out the magazine and it went off. Alright, we'll get figured out this time. What happened upstairs? Good enough for his life. Nothing happened upstairs. There we go, got his eye. Alright, do you have those 2 pins? I got one. Alright. We got those pins. We'll just hold that one. Okay, let's see if we can check him. for more injuries? Not yet, sir. Accidental discharge here. We got another victim, sir. We got another. Still don't have a signature. Where's the gun right now? Be honest. It's upstairs on the dresser. On top of it, or in the dresser? On top of the dresser. Okay. Where it should be in the dresser, in that silver dresser, with the mirror in the master bedroom. Yes. Okay. He's got one here. Okay. What's the one upstairs? Hey, what's up? What's upstairs? What's upstairs? Okay. Adult? No, juvenile, you know. Okay. Take this one to the rescue time. No. Two juveniles. Stay right where you're at. Stand up for me real quick. I'm just gonna pat you down for weapons. Put your hands on your head. Just put them on your head. Your head. Where you at? Turn off for me. Hey, where's that one injured at, you know? He's got something on the side of his head. On his head. That's all we saw. Hey, Doug, yep, here, coming down now. You have a 4-year-old. Where at? Hey, through and through.
So you're saying that whatever happened to him, is that your son?
Both of those are my kids.
Both of those are your kids. So it accidentally discharged and hit your son. What happened to your daughter upstairs?
The same thing, there was both in the bed. It was just one
They
round?
were both in the bed together?
Yes.
I think I remember from the last. You're saying both kids were in the bed together? You were right.
Deputy, a couple quick questions following that. So when that video shows you walking in, the sound doesn't come on for a little while. Why is that?
So en route to the call, the body cam was muted because I was having a conversation with my FTO while getting to the call, and we didn't want that just to be for the a minute or 2 minutes that it was prior to the video that captured audio, just because I was fairly new at the time, so he was kind of walking me through and maybe just calming my nerves a little bit, and that's essentially why it was.
Okay, and so did you manually turn on the sound so that it would pick up the?
Yes, once we made entry, I manually turned it on.
Okay. That thing that they brought in where you pulled out, what is that called? Where you pulled out the gauze?
That is our agency issued medical kit, and it carries things such as quick clot, I think just extra tourniquets, gauze, things of that nature to, render aid in instances like this.
Okay, and every deputy carries one in their vehicle?
Yes.
All right. After tending the boy's injuries and you went out, did you do anything else while you were at the scene?
Once the scene was cleared and both juveniles were removed from the residence, my next task was scene safety and the security of the scene. I stood in the front door while just maintaining the crime scene until I was tasked to do a neighborhood survey with the adjacent building next to it.
And what is a neighborhood survey?
Neighborhood survey essentially is what it is deputies will go and they'll knock on other doors or people that were close to the incident, such as neighbors, just to see if they want to do an interview and see if they heard anything, saw anything, just to gather more information.
And after you did that neighborhood survey, did that conclude your involvement in the case?
Yes, that was my conclusion. Right, that concludes my involvement in the case after that neighborhood survey.
I might have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Judge, I will pass the witness at this time.
All right. Cross.
Morning, Deputy, how are you?
Good morning, ma'am. Good. How are you?
All right, I'm good, thank you. At the time that this happened, you indicated that you were in training?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you were what, 2 days from being on your own?
Yeah, phase 4, day 5 to be precise.
Right. And Deputy Rainey, who was here in the hallway, and you've seen that was your FTO?
Yes, ma'am.
An FTO field training officer?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you arrived about 10:33 to the scene, is that correct?
Approximately that time, yes, ma'am.
And I just want to talk to you very briefly about the lady that you saw outside. It's safe to say that you saw her pretty briefly, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, potentially just walking past her to get inside of the apartment, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you've never met her before, correct?
No, ma'am.
All right. Now, on your body cam there, I heard Mr. Bass talking about where the gun is, and I heard him talking about being on, and I also heard him say it's in the silver dresser. Do you remember both of those?
Yes, ma'am. I believe he made both those statements.
Thank you. Now, when you entered the scene, it looks like you're rendering aid. Is that with Deputy Vanderbosch?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you first entered, until you took over care, you and Deputy Vanderbosch of the son, JJ, blood was actually coming down from JJ down to Mr. Bass and onto the couch, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I also heard Mr. Bass, he's saying, please now call the paramedics, please now. Do you remember that, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point, we see a pat down. Is that pretty much just standard because a gun is involved in this case?
It was standard, yes, because the firearm wasn't involved and we had not located it at that time.
Okay. And you did not find anything during that, correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And may I have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Brown. I don't have any further questions for you.
Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. Thank
you,
you.
ma'am.
Be released from his subpoena.
He is not, and I ask you remain on this floor just for a little bit.
All right, you need to remain here at the courthouse for a little bit. Call your next witness.
State of call Deputy Jason White.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You come this way.
While he's taking your bench, again, just remove objections to your testimony and any evidence.
All right, thank you.
Judge.
Good morning. If you would please introduce yourself and spell your name for us.
Morning, my name is Deputy Jason White, Jasonwhite.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy, how are you currently employed?
I'm a Hillsborough County Sheriff's Deputy
How long have you been working as a Hillsborough County Sheriff's Deputy?
since June of 2020.
What are your duties as a Hillsborough County Sheriff's Deputy?
I'm a patrol deputy.
Okay, what do you do in that?
I respond to calls for service and then conduct proactive patrols.
All right, back on August 29th of 2022, what was your position back at that time?
I was a patrol deputy.
All right. And did you receive a call to respond to a scene out on Heritage Club Drive?
I did.
All right. And is that located here in Hillsborough County?
It is.
Okay. And how, were you close by the scene when you got the call?
Yes, I was.
All right. Was that kind of your general area where you worked as well?
Yes, it is part of my district area.
All right. And what was it, your belief that you were responding to at that time?
A shooting.
Okay. And were you one of the first units on the scene?
Yes.
All right. As you arrived at the scene, did you see anyone on the outside?
I saw a woman.
Okay, and describe to the jury what this woman was like.
She was frantic and she was screaming towards the other deputy who I was with.
Okay. So you were riding with another deputy at that time?
There was another deputy who was in front of me.
Okay. So you all arrived kind of on the same time?
Yes.
And what deputy was that?
Deputy Jones.
All right. So who all enters into do you enter in the house?
Yes.
All right, who all enters in the house with you?
Deputy Jones.
Okay. And going back to that woman, did you have any involvement with her out there?
She was just yelling at us, so.
Okay, but you didn't actually speak to her or have any conversations with her?
We didn't really interact with her.
All right. So when you went into the residence, what were you doing?
We were checking to see what was going on, for one.
Okay. What did you see when you went in there?
There was a adult male sitting on the couch, and then there was a little boy in his arms.
All right. Did you have your guns out?
Yes.
All right. And what did you do at that point?
We began clearing the house.
All right. Explain to the jury what it means when you say you're clearing the house.
So we have to clear a house. We have to confirm that there's not someone in there that's still armed, that is still a threat, that if we start to render aid, someone else might come out and try to injure someone else while we're still there.
Okay. And so where did you go to clear the house?
We went to the staircase to go upstairs.
All right. And who all went upstairs?
Deputy Jones and I.
All right. And where did you go when you went up there?
I went into the kids' bedroom.
All right. Where did Deputy Jones go?
He went into the master bedroom.
Describe for the jury, when you go in up the stairs, where is the kids' bedroom?
So when you go up the stairs, the kids' bedroom is directly in front of the staircase, and then you have a bathroom immediately to our left-hand side, and the master bedroom is behind us.
All right. What did you see when you went into the kids' bedroom?
I saw blood on the floors and on the walls, and then I saw a bunk bed on my left-hand side.
All right. And what did you do at that point?
I checked the room, and then I checked the bunk bed.
All right. And what did you see in the bunk bed?
On the top bunk, I found a little girl.
All right. And could you tell anything about the little girl?
She was laying on her side, facing towards me. She was laying in blood, and she had a bullet hole in the center of her forehead.
What did you do at that point?
I told the other deputies what I found, and I went to grab a med bag.
And those are another deputy's already testified. Those are things you keep in everyone has in their, all the
Yes.
deputies have in their cars, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you do that because the paramedics weren't there yet, right?
Yes.
All right. So you go down and get the med bag. Do you go back up?
Yes.
And what do you do when you go back up?
When I go back up, we started putting pressure on the wounds that she had until the medics arrived.
All right. Were you wearing a body-worn camera on that day?
Yes.
All right. And I'm showing you what's already been introduced as State's Exhibit number 3. Is this in fact, did you review that and see that?
Yes.
All right. And is this does this very inaccurately depict what you did when you first arrived on that scene?
Yes.
All right. Judge, I'm publishing.
All right.
Sheriff's office. How many people are inside? Inside.
Station
Anybody else in here? Is there anybody upstairs? No. Hey, can you two go and help him? We'll clear up here. I'm gonna hook around. Yeah. Sheriff's office, anyone upstairs? Alright, I'm going in here. You guys trying to say? Oh, what's going on? You see a fire? Hey! Sweetie! Hey, we got another one up here.
Hey, we got another one
Follow
up here.
here. 0, gunshot wound.
That's clear. Let me grab my med bag. Hey, see the farm still up there with her? She's still breathing. Start holding pressure. Let me grab my med.
All right, and what do you, at that time, is that when you go outside to get the med bag?
Yes.
And you actually brought it in?
Yes.
Okay. And you go back upstairs?
Yes.
All right, and at that point in time, had the paramedics arrived yet?
Not yet.
All right. Did they get there soon after?
Yes.
All right. After the paramedics arrived and took the little girl, what was your duties at that time, or what was your position, or what were you have to do?
Immediately after, I was just holding the scene upstairs.
Okay, what does that mean by holding the scene?
I'm standing up there, making sure no one who's not allowed to be in there comes up there.
All right. Did you, once you were cleared out of the house, did you have any other involvement in the case?
Yes.
And what was that?
I was instructed to drive the mother to the hospital.
All right. And the mother, is that the woman we see on that video right there?
Yes.
The one who was screaming at the very beginning of the video?
Yes.
All right. And which hospital did you drive her to?
Tampa General.
And what was her condition on the drive?
She was frantic.
Okay. Did she say anything to you while you were driving?
I'm gonna object here, say.
I was stained.
All right. How was she when you got her to the hospital?
She
Demeanor, like, is she still the same, or?
she was still frantic. She was uncooperative with wanting to go in the hospital.
Okay. And she, when you say that, what do you mean by that?
She was scared to go in the hospital.
After getting her to the hospital, what did you do?
I left her with another deputy and then the hospital staff.
Okay. And was that everything that you did in this case, or did you ever go back to the scene?
No, I was ordered to go back to the scene.
All right. So after dropping her off at the hospital, at Tampa General Hospital in downtown, you drove all the way back up there to the scene?
Yes.
All right. And what did you do at that point when you got to the scene?
I was told I took the father from another deputy and placed him in the back seat of my truck.
Okay. And did you eventually transport him to the station?
I transported him to the district office.
To the district office? How was his demeanor on the entire time he was with you?
Calm.
Calm?
Yes, he was calm.
All right. Did you do anything else on the case?
No.
Can I have one moment here?
Yes.
Can we approach this for 1 second?
Sure.
Okay, Judge, I have nothing further of this deputy. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning still. How are you, Deputy?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm only going to ask you some additional questions, all right? When you are entering, we can hear somebody saying, come in on your body cam. I presume that's Mr. Bass, correct?
Can we play the body cam again? I don't remember hearing it. I'll have to watch it again.
Okay. Where's the? Oh, I'm like, where is it? It's hiding there, thank you. You would ask to play the body cam.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. No. Ah, there we go. All right, I'll play it again for you. And I'm just gonna turn it off after you walk in, if that's okay.
Sheriff's office. How many people are inside?
Okay? Did you hear that?
I did.
All right. Does that refresh your memory now about somebody saying, come in, a male voice from inside the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy. All right, there's some questions being asked when y'all have come into the townhouse. And a question is asked about, is there anybody else inside? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Bass originally says no. However, you actually heard something else being said, did you not? And please tell the jury what you heard.
Yes, I heard him mumble something about a little girl as I walked by him.
In fact, you documented that in your report.
Yes.
Okay. When you went upstairs, the only question I want to ask you about concerning Jayla Bass is, you saw a shell casing by her foot?
Yes.
Just one, right?
There's one showcase.
But you're not looking for evidence at that point, you're trying to help her.
Correct.
Right, okay. Now, Mr. Bass was in your patrol vehicle for several hours, waiting to be transported?
He was back there for a long time, yes.
Okay, all right. And had you ever met him before?
No.
Okay. And you have described him as calm. He was cooperative with you, didn't give you any problems, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you also described him as being quiet, that he's very quiet. Is that fair?
Yes.
His demeanor? Okay. All right. All right. May I have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
Shut this down. Thank you, Deputy White. No other questions?
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down, thank you. He released from his subpoena.
Yes, Your Honor. You can state this.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Call your next witness.
State will call Deputy Nathaniel Jones.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
You come this way. morning. If you would please introduce yourself and spell your name for us.
My name is Deputy Nathaniel Jones, Nathaniel Jones.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy, how are you employed?
I am employed with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
What is your job at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
I am a law enforcement deputy.
Okay. Do you have any specific duties there as a member of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
I am assigned to District 1 Patrol.
All right. And as part of a patrol, you go out and you respond to scenes, you pull over traffic infractions, that sort of thing. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. What was your position back on August 29th of 2022?
I was in the same capacity as a patrol deputy.
How long have you been working with the Sheriff's Office at that time?
At that time, roughly 1 year.
All right. Prior to that, had you had any law enforcement training or experience?
No.
Okay. Now, did you receive a call to respond out to a scene on Heritage Club Drive?
Yes.
And what did you believe you were responding to?
I believed it was a 911 emergency call. The details of the call weren't, to my knowledge, given because of the open line status of the caller.
Okay. But you knew you were responding to shots being fired?
Yes.
Okay. And were you one of the first units on the scene?
Correct.
When you pulled up, did you see anyone as you were walking up?
Yes.
What did you see?
I seen as I was driving up to the residence, I seen a male who was pointing in the direction of the residence, trying to guide me to the correct residence.
Okay. And then what did you see when you got to the residence?
Once I got to the residence, I seen a female exit the residence and approach me as I got out of my vehicle.
Okay. Did you have any involvement with her?
Yes. I had asked her, first she volunteered the information that her.
Objection, hearsay.
Judge, he's just arriving on scene. And she's in, what was
Establish a predicate.
Yes. What was her demeanor at that time? What was her behavior like?
She was frantic.
Okay. And did she appear to be under an emotional stress of what had happened?
Correct.
Judge, I believe this would be considered an excited utterance.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. And so as you approached her, what was going on?
She was telling me that her son had been shot.
Okay. And what did you do when she said that? What did you do?
I tried to get information as to who had shot her son, and if the person who had shot her son was still within the area.
Okay. And did she respond to you?
She was very frantic, but she just kept saying, "My son, my son, my son."
Okay. And did you go into the scene, into the apartment?
I did. I made that decision once I realized I wasn't gonna get any additional information to try and clear the scene.
All right. And were you one of the first ones into the apartment?
That is correct.
All right. And did you come with your guns drawn?
That is correct.
All right. What did you see when you went into the residence?
As I entered the front door of the residence, I seen a gentleman, adult male, and a juvenile male sitting on the living room couch.
Okay. Who all entered the residence with you at that time?
Deputy White and myself were the first two to enter the residence.
All right. After seeing that male holding his son, what did you do at that point?
I asked him if there was anyone else in the residence. I realized it was a two-story residence, so for safety of the deputies and everyone else, I asked if there was anyone else within the residence.
And what was his response?
He said no.
Okay. And then what did you do?
I then took the decision to clear the upstairs floor of that residence.
And so where did you go at that point?
I walked up the stairs and I seen that there were multiple bedrooms within the second floor. And me and Deputy White cleared the 2 bedrooms on the second floor.
And which bedroom did you clear?
I cleared the master bedroom first, along with the bathroom that was on that side of the upstairs floor.
All right. After clearing the master bedroom, what did you do?
I walked back to Deputy White's position where he was positioned near the children's bedroom, and I entered the children's bedroom along with Deputy White.
All right. And what did you see in the children's bedroom?
I seen bunk beds, and on the top bunk bed, we located a victim.
All right. What was this victim? What did she look like?
The juvenile female victim.
Okay, so little girl.
Yes, sir.
And what was her condition that you saw when you first saw her?
When I first saw her, she was laying on her side, facing towards the inward of the bedroom, and she had what appeared to myself to be a gunshot wound to the head.
Were you wearing a body-worn camera on this day?
I was.
All right. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 5. It's already been admitted into evidence. Did you review that video?
I did.
And is that video a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw when you went in on that day?
Yes.
All right. Judge, publish it this time?
Yes.
Judge, just renewing again any evidence or testimony based on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Who shot him? Who shot him?
It was the gun, it was the gun, it was the gun.
Did he shoot himself?
No, he did not. The gun went off. I need my son.
The ambulance is on the way.
Well, can you
Stay
fucking hurry up?
Stay outside. Sheriff's office. How many people are inside? Second, I'm gonna go around the corner. Is there anybody upstairs? Is there anybody upstairs? Okay, can you go help him? We'll clear up here. I'm gonna hook around this corner, go out there. Sheriff's office, anyone upstairs? This is clear back here. You see your firearm? Sweetie! Oh. Hey, we got another one up here. What the? There's a child up here.
Signal 0, gunshot wound. That's clear. Let me grab my med bag.
Wait a second.
Hey, see the fire still up there with her? She's still breathing. No, we're gonna be here now. She's breathing. Where's that? There's a shell right here. I don't see it as signal 0.
Deputy, a couple of questions about that. So when the video starts, there's no sound to it. Is that common when these body-worn cameras?
That is correct. There is a buffering period prior to activation there's no audio.
So it's like the first minute when the camera comes on, there's a where it's-
Prior to the activation, there's no audio. So there will be video, but there will be no audio until I physically activate it myself.
Okay. Now, when you the signal 0 you all are talking about, what is that?
We're referring to a weapon. In this case, we're referring to a firearm.
So when they keep saying looking or check for signal 0, you're talking about looking for basically the firearm, right?
The weapon used.
The weapon used, correct. All right. Now, the body-worn camera shuts off right there. At that point in time, what do you do?
From the end of the video, my body camera does continue to roll, but however, you're referring to
What you did
Okay.
after that point?
After that point, I pulled the victim closer towards the middle to the bed where I could, easily reach her. Once she was towards the middle of the bed, I physically picked her up, and then I placed her on the bedroom floor in an effort to begin to render aid to the victim.
Okay. And so you were the one who actually physically got her off of that bed and put her down on the floor to give aid to her, correct?
That is correct.
And did Deputy White actually come back with the med bag?
Yeah, Deputy White returned with his medical bag, and I used some of the gauze that was within his medical bag to apply pressure to some of her wounds that were on her head.
All right. And did ultimately the paramedics arrive and take her?
That is correct.
All right. After the paramedics arrived and took the little girl, what was your assignment at that point?
I had went outside. My vehicle was the closest vehicle to the residence front door. Therefore, I was tasked with putting the defendant within my vehicle and holding him there.
All right. And what was his demeanor while in your patrol car?
He was calm within the back of my patrol car. We conducted a pat down on him prior to putting him in the patrol car, and he was compliant with us.
Okay. What else did you do in the investigation?
I maintained the integrity of the crime scene log until I was relieved.
Okay, and what does that mean when you talk about maintaining the integrity of a crime scene log?
We log everybody who had entered the crime scene and left the crime scene while we were on scene at that time for the crime until I'm relieved.
So by this point in time, you all had put up that yellow tape that you all put up?
That is correct. The tape had already been put up by the time I went back outside.
Okay, and it's your job at that point just to document who comes inside that tape and who doesn't. Well, not who doesn't, but who comes inside that tape, correct?
Yeah, who comes in and then leaves as well.
All right, and you did that until you were relieved of your duty on that day?
Until I was relieved the next morning at the end of my shift.
Okay, so you were there for a while?
I was there until the end of my shift the next morning, yep.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor. Judge, I'll pass the witness at this time.
All right.
Good afternoon, Deputy Jones. How are you?
I'm doing well.
All right, I just have some few additional questions for you. At the beginning of the body cam, we understand you have that time period where you're always, that's policy, how you're always going to have that off, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you guys, don't, what is it, like a minute, that's standard that you do not record?
Prior to activation, there's a buffering
Right,
period, yes.
right, okay. And everybody does that, there's no issue with that, correct?
Is there an issue with my
There-
camera buffering?
No, there's no issue with the fact that you don't hear anything for the first minute or so, correct? That's typical.
It can be, yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, and when you first go to the residence, the door was cracked, was it not? It was not completely open, but kind of cracked open, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I could hear somebody saying, come in to you. That's going to be Mr. Bass, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that somebody waved you down, some sort of male is trying to help you get to the scene where you were supposed to be, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And that's because you didn't even have an apartment number in the call, is that right?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And you indicated about the female that you talked to. You tried to talk to her, but she wasn't very helpful to you, correct?
Correct.
Right. And you asked her numerous times who shot your child, and she never answered that question, correct?
Correct.
Now, Mr. Bass was cooperative with you during the time you had contact with him, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And he's going to be in your patrol vehicle for some period of time before he is transferred to another patrol vehicle. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And you had never met him before, correct?
That is correct.
And there wasn't any noticeable behavior. He was very quiet. Is that fair?
Yes.
And you're actually going to be the first deputy to enter that townhome, correct?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about your comment about Mr. Bass when you asked, is anybody upstairs? And he says, no one. As you're entering the residence, who are you with? What deputy is with you?
I believe Deputy White was behind me.
So you're with Deputy White, and you remember Mr. Bass, and we hear on the body cam, he says no. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And that is something that you did not document in your police report. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And your reports, you want them to be accurate and detail things you might have seen and heard, correct?
Yes.
Right. Especially from somebody who's being charged with a homicide, correct? You want to make sure you're documenting.
Yes.
Okay. So you're pretty quick, are you not, when you walk past Mr. Bash? You're not standing there to talk to him. You actually never stop walking and just walk past him to go upstairs, correct?
Yes.
And Deputy White is behind you, correct?
Yes.
So if Deputy White had heard something in addition to that, you may not have heard it, right?
That's correct.
Right,
Yep.
okay. All right, may I have a moment? Deputy Jones, thank you very much. We don't have any further questions for you.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down, thank you. Is he released from his subpoena?
From the state, yes, sir.
Yes, Judge, he's released.
All right, thank you. Approach the bench for a minute. It's 12:15. I will see you back here at 1:15. Same admonition, no discussion about the case, no investigation. Enjoy your lunch.
All rise.
Judge, you told them to break until when?
1:15. All right, if you just restate your name for the record, please.
Deputy Adam Rahman, R-A-H-M-A-N.
Thanks.
Deputy Rahman, we, on your direct and cross, we established you were in training that day, so you're pretty much under the supervision of Deputy Rainey. Is that fair?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Deputy Rainey is in fact asking questions to Mr. Bass, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And when you finally read Miranda at a later point, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you read Miranda when Deputy Rainey directed you to read it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Deputy Rainey directed you to read Miranda at the point that you did due to the fact that you had found another gunshot wound victim upstairs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That was it? Anything? Okay.
Well, just,
Oh.
Deputy Rahman, you're assuming that's why he asked you to read Miranda. You don't know.
Yeah,
why you
I'm.
picked that particular moment.
Yeah, I'm not in his brain, so I that's a fair assessment to say that that's why he asked me to read it. But since he's the one training me, whatever he tells me to do, I do. No questions asked.
Okay, so you don't really know why. You just know at that particular moment he asked you to read Miranda and you did.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right.
You did testify at deposition that you read Miranda because of that fact, that you had determined another victim, though, correct?
Yes, ma'am. If that's what the deposition says, yes, ma'am.
All right, you could step down. Thank you. See release at
He is
this
now
time.
released. Thank you so much for waiting.
All right. All right, we'll be in recess.